Welcome, Mike. I am so thrilled to have you with us today. You're all the way over in the States. I'm here in a little suburb of Plymouth in Devon in the UK. Obviously, from very different walks of life. My business, my industry is dance school owners, but you're used to working with just about everyone and anyone, aren't you?
Yes, including dance school owners here in the States predominantly. But yeah, all different types of businesses. And it's a pleasure to be with you here, Deb. So thanks for inviting me across the great pond that separates us.
Absolutely. And it really is bizarre for me because I've heard your voice coming out of my car when I'm listening to your audiobooks for hours and hours on long journeys. And it's thrilling to have you actually with me. And I've got a bunch of questions and I know you're a really busy guy. So how about we start with one of the things that comes across to me as one of your consumers is your sheer energy and enthusiasm for what you do. And I spoke to my mentor who's over in the States, knows of you well. And she said, "Oh, Deborah, you're going to have such fun. Mike's a little bit bonkers,
A little bit, yes.
but you're going to love it." And I said, that's kind of the impression I got. Do you mind being described as a little bit bonkers, Mike?
Oh no, I embrace it. I'm silly and goofy. It's my natural state. This is who I am. And as I was building my author career, I said I'm not going to placate to the standard of the industry. I'm just going to lean into who I am, and maybe that'd be accepted or not. But I knew if I was inauthentic or inconsistent with myself and trying to be this uber professional, it would water down who I am and I'd feel uncomfortable. The great privilege is I've leaned into who I am to the greatest degree. And it's been embraced by some readers. And so it's just a joy. And yeah, that's just who I am.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm really interested, like, how do you keep that energy going? I know it's you, you're not trying to be something, but surely there are days when Mike is just in a bad mood, doesn't want to talk to anyone. And like,
it happens. It happens. There's a couple of things. There's three things. First of all, I had been clinically diagnosed with hypomania. Hypomania is an energy state in the mind where there's constant movement, different than ADHD. It's not distraction, it's just energy. So I have this need to burn it. There's two other things though. I exercise daily. That helps me kind of channel my energy, but also it brings more energy itself. So it kind of works both sides. And the third thing, and I just started this recently, active meditation. And while I'm only about 60 meditations into this practice, doing it daily, it does seem to be a great source of energy because it's such relaxation when going through meditation that it brings the fuel when I need to deliver it.
Yeah. And, and that comes across to all of us because you obviously managed to keep that energy going really, really well. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about mindset because, one of the things I'm always coaching my clients on is that actually, business, they say, don't they, is like 80, 90% mindset, 10% knowing the rest of the stuff. And so when I've got a dance school owner that comes to me and, the school is not doing too well, it's maybe breaking even if it's lucky, but he might be, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week trying to keep this business going. That's pretty rock bottom in terms of business. Like, what advice do you have for them in order to get the mojo and the energy back to be able to start doing something about that?
Yeah, my instinct would be not to change who you are, but to channel who you are. I think we think that a fix to our challenges is by replicating someone else, by saying, well, this is what I've read or see other people do. I need to change who I am. I need to fake it, and then maybe I'll make it. And I don't think that's actually the path. I think what it is really embracing our natural tendencies and then positioning it in a way that'll serve us. For example, with exercise, one thing I noticed is this was about 8-9 years ago that while I always believed in exercise, I would do it haphazardly. I would say I want to work out 5 days a week, but when I really measured it, it was more like 2 days a week. So I asked myself, what was my pattern? What's my natural behavior that I could channel? I noticed I'd wake up in the morning, go to the bathroom, grab a cup of coffee, start scrolling through the news, and then say, "Oh, I missed my workout." Well,
this is me, by the way. This is
me. That's you. Okay. Well, here's the solution. I would wake up in the morning. Every time I go to the bathroom first, I put my gym shoes on my toilet seat, to my wife's chagrin, but that's where they are. And now when I would wake up, the only way I could use the bathroom was by grabbing my shoes, and then I put them on my feet, and then momentum would kick in and I work out. That's channeling behavior. So look at what we naturally already do and say, how can we make this, how can we continue to do what we do, but get the result we want? Instead of trying to change ourselves, saying, I need to work out, I have to change this, which I was trying for a decade, I never did. It was once I started intercepting that natural path of mine, I started to see results.
Fantastic. So it's creating those new patterns, isn't it? So they become habits.
New patterns within existing patterns. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I think that's my problem. I don't have any exercise in my existing patterns. So I've got to create that from scratch, which is really interesting coming from a dance teacher.
But it's not too uncommon. It's actually considered very human of you. I will tell you another thing I've discovered too in affecting any change, exercise or my work experience. It's starting very small. I used to say, oh, I haven't been exercising. I need to go all out and try to run 5 kilometers or try to lift, ridiculous amounts of weight. And it would injure me or I'd burn out and I wouldn't be able to sustain it. When I found that I simply put in small incremental changes, that's when it became easy. So instead of running 5 kilometers, just walk 1 kilometer in the morning. You can do that in 10 minutes. And that was enough. Once I got that habit down, now I say, could I extend this and change this? So I've built up those things. And that's true with the work I've done as an entrepreneur too. I start small and let it grow. There's a lot of talk about setting these massive goals. I want to have billions of dollars or pounds. I want to have all this money. And it's so large and so perceptibly outrageous. I don't think we achieve it. I think our goal should be next week, I want to make 1,000 pounds more than I have the week prior. Incremental shifts. Stretch yourself a little bit, but don't go so ridiculous that you injure yourself.
Which, of course, is what Profit First is all about, isn't it? It's about making that profit margin creep up slowly and slowly and slowly. And it's a system that I've really embraced and love, and have tried to, in my own little way, kind of show it to my audience and my members. And just today, actually, we had a training with a guest speaker and your name popped up. And I wasn't going to tell anyone just yet about this interview. I was keeping it as a big surprise. And I just said, I can't hold it in anymore. She was actually flattered. It was a tax lady over in Wisconsin, and it was snowing outside. And, we're having this fabulous guest speaker and she starts talking about Profit First. And I said, I have to tell you something. She couldn't quite believe it. I think she thought I was joking. I said, I'm going to pop off a call from you in a minute and have a chat with Mike. And she was like, what's she talking about?
That's brilliant.
Profit First, obviously, massive book for you. So many other fabulous books that we all love you for as well. Can I ask, do you have a favorite?
Oh, I do. It's The Pumpkin Plan. That was my first book that had really mainstream success, not to the degree of Profit First, but it was such a joy writing it. It is the most irreverent book I've written when I still was in the sophomore phases of being an author. So my books have become more sophisticated. But Pumpkin Plan, not only is it my favorite in the writing style I put into it, it's also had great long-term impact. Interestingly, Profit First serves people right away and it'll serve them permanently. And so I get calls immediately saying, my gosh, I read your book last week and I'm already profitable. That's wonderful. But with the Pumpkin Plan, I get readers emailing me or calling me saying, I read the Pumpkin Plan 2 years ago. My business is, double its size and it's healthy. It's organically healthy. I don't even have to work in the business anymore. The Pumpkin Plan is a longer term lifetime strategy. And so it's nice to see readers coming back years later and saying what they've experienced.
Yeah. And I mean, that was obviously, was that your very first book, The Pumpkin Plan?
No, my very first book was called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, self-published book. It was a long slog to sell that. I'll never forget the first day I'm a first-time author. I have no idea what I'm doing. I sold 0 books. And to give that context, my own mother didn't buy a book that day. Like no one bought a book. And that was my awakening to what authorship entailed. But I doubled down. I said, I have to make this work because I went all in on authorship. It was always a childhood dream of mine. And now I intended to manifest it. So that was my first book. Subsequently, I'm so fortunate, and I put hard work into it. It sold over 100,000 copies over its lifetime. And what happened is during that, a mainstream publisher here in the States said, we'd like to publish your next book. And they've published with me ever since.
Are you looking to get precious time back in your life so you can make more time doing the things you love? DanceBiz is a class management and booking software from the lovely folk at Think Smart that will automate and streamline all your dance school admin. It's the perfect tool for all those tasks that just seem to take so long and will help you to work smarter, not harder. Message me today, folks, and I can give you a code so you can get 2 months free.
Yeah. And we've all been enjoying them ever since. And your latest book, Get Different, what I love is that you don't just keep writing books about the same topic. Like you literally are helping the entrepreneurs in so many different ways. And, Get Different, the book about marketing, I hope it's okay that I'm allowed to call it that. I love it because it's like you strike me as a person who practices what you preach. And I'll explain to the listeners what I mean by this. I signed up for Profit First, and I signed up for the resources. And I don't know what else I signed up for. I just signed up for everything. And a couple of weeks later, I get an email through from your company with a little video attached to it. And it's you talking. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, obviously, this is a little video that Mike sends out to everybody. And I had a quick little listen, assuming that this video was the same video that went out to every single person. And halfway through, by the way, you were stood at a barbecue, like flipping burgers. And halfway through, you said, I can't even remember what the words were. Something about Deborah Laws, go and have fun. And I was like, what? He just used my name. And then the penny dropped that this wasn't a one video fits all. You had personally sent this video. And I couldn't believe it. And I've told so many people, and there's the joy in it, isn't it? Like, it was such a different strategy. I've told the world about this strategy. When I'm trying to tell my clients they have to do something different, your example is that one. And that was way before you wrote the Get Different book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been using that and other strategies for a long time. The interesting thing about something that's different, to your point, it becomes a remarkable experience and is unforgettable. If it was just another standard video, I presume it's like everyone else's, it's very forgettable. When we do something different, it becomes viral in its own community. Like you tell everyone about it. The other thing that's interesting is if we, dance studio owners or any other form of entrepreneur are willing to do different, we will stand out from the competition at an elite level. If we're willing to do what they're not willing to do, you will stand out into perpetuity. So as an author, what I notice my contemporaries, what they do is they send out emails and maybe there's a generic video, but no one or very few are willing to do personal videos for every reader. So that became a mainstay of ours. We said, well, no one's willing to do it. Let's be the one to do it. And that's how we'll distinguish ourselves. Yes, over the years, I've made tens of thousands of videos now for readers, but there's chunk time, including today, for me to send out another batch of about 20 videos. And we want to be personal. So it's not always here. This is my office. It's not always here in my office. Many are. Sometimes it's on the road. Sometimes it's at the airport. And think about that. If you're willing to make that little, I made a video for you as a 10, 15 second video. It wasn't like this massive video, but the impact it potentially has on you could be a lifetime impact. And not all my readers will receive that. And many will receive the email and say, oh, another video, and delete it because they don't know it's for them. But the few that do, they become back of service to me and start spreading the word. It's worth the little extra effort to be different because of the extraordinary returns it provides.
Yeah, it's that, go the extra mile. It's lonely out there.
That's right. Yeah. Amen.
And, one of the things that I love that is really, I think really pushes people in this book is to really think about what makes them different. And you talked earlier about the fact that you're so thrilled that you managed to live your life in a real from an authentic place. What would you say, like one of the things that some of my clients and my members struggle with is finding their uniqueness in terms of their business? Because, one of my ladies, for example, has a school. There are 18 schools within a 2-mile radius of her.
Yeah.
And she says to me, we do a lot of work on trying to find the USP. And she says, but Deborah, I just don't know. How do I stand out amongst 18 different schools? What kind of tips would you give there, Mike?
Yeah, it's not in your offering. Generally, I expect what they offer is great and extraordinary. And what we often try to do is say, well, I'll introduce a new offering. It's usually in our attire. Think about the human experience. If you're walking down the street and there's 50 people lined up, you will notice their differences based upon skin level stuff, how they physically present themselves, their height, their weight, their sex, skin color, their attire. But internally, you and I, the human biology, we're 99.9% the same. Your heart and my heart is the same spot. Like if we were rushed to the medic and the surgeon says, I need to do heart surgery on you right now, she wouldn't say, and by the way, your heart is like in your foot. Like, where do you keep your heart? The biology is the same. For business, internally, we're the same. It's the outside presentation that gets the attention. So the question is, how do we present ourselves? What I would do is look at my competition and say, oh, everyone does a Facebook ad or does that mailer. And those are the things not to do. That's just another generic video that's coming your way and is going to be deleted. Can you send out dance shoes? And I'm just riffing here, but to your prospects, send out a pair of dance shoes and say, your daughter or son should be in these shoes. Or now we got one foot in the door, why don't you come in, or let's get the other foot in the door, something like that.
Well, let's send them one shoe. Now you've got one
send
shoe.
One shoe, right? That's incomplete, shoe. Right? And say, your child should be in here. Send maybe an award for someone that went to your school. Like maybe someone went through training at your school. Now they've won some awards and stuff, and send it out and say, your child should be the next award winner. And maybe it's not the child, maybe it's adults you're working with, with dance. Maybe send them something like a rose or something, and it says, when you present the best, people want to throw flowers at you. Here's your first flower. Things that break the normal pattern. Now here's the key. Start slow and let it grow, just like we were talking about with exercise. I am not saying invest a couple £1,000 to see if this works. Can we do something for 20 or 30 pounds and just try it on a few people to see if it's being responded to? The goal, and this is the key, and that's why I have the sign up here, be you always, is I'm not looking for people to be outrageous or weird. I'm actually looking you to amplify who you are. Because the only experience people will have with your dance studio until they come to it is the marketing. And if the marketing is inconsistent, it'll throw people off. Just an example, I was on Zoom, Deborah, I was on Zoom yesterday, and people come on and they have a camera off, so a picture comes up of them. And I'm looking at this one person, like, wow, they're awfully young to be in this meeting. I didn't expect like a teenager to be here. She turned on her camera and I was like, oh my God, you just aged 30 years in a second. And I was like, oh, okay, that's your favorite picture from when you were in high school. The thing is, there is a little bit of mistrust that happens. You're putting yourself out one way, but you're another way. And the current you is extraordinary. It's just not being embraced. If we put ourselves out in marketing one way and the experience is slightly askew, there's distrust. So however you present yourself, it's got to be an amplification of your natural self.
I love that. I love that. And I'd love to know, because you come up with some fabulous ideas. Like, I love your office where you just play around.
Oh yeah, it's right down the hallway. That's cool. You saw it. Yeah.
Costumes. Like, I'd love to be on one of your brainstorming days.
Oh my gosh. If we could recruit you, we'd have you over here as a colleague.
I'd love to know, have you ever come up with an idea that was so crazy that you tried it and it was just really bombed?
Oh my gosh. Like that's actually the majority of the ideas. So we mostly have bombers. I'll tell you one of the most recent ones. So I wrote a book called Fix This Next that released in the last year or two. And we said, why don't we run a parody book? This was my genius idea of my own book, like run a parody of it. So we made a book called Drink This Next. It's actually in the Mad Lab. And what it was a sequence of drinks necessary based upon life circumstances. So life is going well. You started with H2O, water. But as things got more difficult, you went up to, beers and stuff. And then you get to the hard liquor, and then you get to pure grain alcohol. And so it was this parody. It's like, oh, this is so funny. And we invested at an experimental level. I still put a little bit too much money into it, but we developed it. We then created a website called drinkthisnext.com, and we invited people to get the parody book. And it was a total bomb. And no one got the book, but also it didn't foster the promotion of Fix This Next. There was disparity. It's like, I don't understand how these link. So it was simply an experiment. And I do hundreds of those that just collapse or don't get the results we want. But the great thing about having failure is you learn things not to do, and it can trigger ideas of an enhancement or an application elsewhere. So in our Mad Lab is just a pile of marketing that we've tried and we've noticed out there in the world. And we go in there whenever a new marketing idea is needed, and we start trying to string together ideas. And sometimes a bad idea can foster a new good idea.
Yeah. And this is something that I try to encourage people to do, because sometimes, if I'm holding a retreat for my dance business owners, I buy them all huge pads and we all sit around and I'll give them something to kind of start their creative juices going. And I said, I just brain dump every crazy idea, everything you can think of. And they just kind of go, I can't think of anything.
I can't think of anything.
And what they really want is for me to come up with the ideas for them. And I'm like, this has got to be your ideas. But that's hard.
One strategy is to think of other professions and integrate it. So, I'm an author, and so I'll pick a random profession like a plumber. And I'll say, okay, a plumber has to market me. How would a plumber do it? And now I have a perspective of what a plumber does. They're installing pipes. They're wearing pants that are a little bit too short, and you see things you don't want to see, like when they're under your sink. And I start thinking this way, and that's one way to trigger new ideas. The danger, the risk we run when we have to generate an idea for ourselves on the spot, our mind naturally reverts to its list of the 5 things we've done in the past, and we get stuck in this pattern. So we need to give ourselves a new paradigm, a new perspective. That's one technique. I'll tell you the best, though, for me is to get people who are not in my industry collectively together. Because if I have someone that does solar work, solar farms, someone that does apparel, someone that owns a manufacturing business, and that actually is my mastermind, I have those people, we sit down together and we trigger an idea for authorship. They have no idea what the best practices are, and therefore they break the rules. I can take those ideas then, model them around who I naturally am, and then amplify those.
I love that. Yeah. And also, they're going to be your market.
And that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Mike, I'm going to finish with, if it's okay, with your permission, a few fast, crazy questions. It's literally just getting you to kind of throw out the answer. Is this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I've got them on a piece of paper. I need to make sure it's not in the way of the camera. Okay. Favorite food?
Blueberries.
Favorite hobby?
Guitar. I play guitar.
Oh, amazing. Favorite film?
Terminator 2. And I got to be honest, this is not a classic, but for me, it's a must see. I love it.
Okay. Song? Favorite song?
That rotates around. I would say right now it's Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, just because I'm practicing the solo. I want to make sure I got it perfectly done.
Old school.
He's a great guitarist, David Gilmour. My gosh. You Brits, I don't know how you do it, but you roll out the most amazing musicians on the planet. What are you doing over there?
I don't know, but some of them are quite old now. Like, I'm not sure.
Some of them are quite old, but you're rolling out new ones too. But yeah.
Okay. Favorite mountain view?
Favorite mountain view? There's a city called Blacksburg, Virginia. That's where I went to school, and it's surrounded by mountains. It's called the Blue Ridge Mountains. When the sun rises over them or sets over them, it's a gorgeous blue hue. I love them.
Ah, awesome. Favorite business book that's not yours?
Well, yeah, and they're not mine. Probably my favorite business book, one of the definitive ones is E-Myth by Michael Gerber, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's on the shelf. I'm glad I've got that.
Yeah.
Whose business do you wish you'd thought of?
Who's Uber or Lyft? I mean, or Airbnb, anyone where there is an existing inventory and you just become the organizer of that inventory. Gosh, that's such genius ideas.
Yeah. And what about person you'd most like to meet that's still alive?
Tina Turner, like what a businesswoman. She just sold all of her musical assets I heard recently. I'm just really curious about how she did that.
Yeah. And famous person that's not still with us.
Famous person who's still not with us, George Washington. I know for us, he's a hero. For you, he's a tyrant. But I'm really curious about the ideology of forming a new country and fighting for it. I live in an area where a lot of the combat was happening, and just reading the stories seemed like a very noble person, at least from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, one goal that you have still in your life, just one.
One goal, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I have a sheet. Actually, I'll show you. Check this out. Every year, this is my sheet for this year. This is 2022. I document all my goals. I got the first one done, so I'll tell you that one. I wanted to start active meditation, as I was sharing, and I went through transcendental meditation training. So my goal as of January 1st was to do transcendental meditation. I completed the training by January 3rd, and now I'm in the process. I have about 30, 40.
Smash January.
Smash January, but I got 30 or 40 more I got to go through. Okay. But I'm hacking away at them.
Favorite one on that piece of paper just before we finish?
Favorite one is probably I'm going to surprise my wife. I'm not going to say how I'm going to surprise her, but we have our 25-year wedding anniversary. So one of my goals is to give her a really cool surprise on our anniversary in June.
Oh, awesome. Well, listen, Mike, I hope you have a beautiful anniversary with your wonderful wife. Thank you so much for coming today and speaking with me. And I wish you all the best with Get Different. There's also a children's book you've brought out, isn't there? First children's book.
My first children's book. It's called My Money Bunnies. You can see it strategically positioned behind me over there. And I plan to do more children's books. It's a fun genre, and I think it can be of service to next generation people. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we look forward to that, and you serving little people as well as us big grown-up people as well. Mike, thank you so much.
Deborah, thank you.